Welcome to the Compass Conversations podcast. We're a community of professional peers who love learning with and from each other. In other words, we choose collaboration over competition. Every conversation here is organic. Even the opening topic isn't settled until 5 minutes before we hit record. And the rest is riffing off of each other's brilliance. Thanks for hanging out with us in a new paradigm of learning, teaching, and expansion, where presence and non-competitive conversation create the space to learn without having to be schooled. Please visit compassconversations.com to discover more about this peer community and to include yourself as a sponsor. Okay, welcome to our next Compass Conversations. I'm Carrie Lake, and today we're together with Chris Adderson, Barbara Schulte, Mark Rashid, Kathy Price, and Suki Baxter. And before we move into where we just about 2 minutes ago decided we would start our conversation, I'll read our invocation. It's really, this little paragraph is really just a way to invite us all, everybody here on the call, but also everybody listening, into a place of listening that is a common place within all of us. It's pointing us toward presence and ease. And these conversations are shared from our sense of connection, camaraderie, and love. This community of peers is curious to learn from and with one another, living, learning, and leading by example. We're exploring together, acknowledging the interspecies family on this planet, while lovingly including ourselves in the family of life from the heart for the heart. And I'm just always so grateful to get to play with all of you. So today, Barbara is going to bring forward her question and her curiosity to kick off our conversation, and we'll see where we end up going with it. Go ahead, Barbara.
Okay. Thank you so much, Carrie. And that invocation is really lovely. And I'm so happy to be here with everyone, as always. And my curiosity is around the word energy. And energy is a word that I believe has lots of different meanings to different people, while obviously having some commonalities. And so my question to everyone is, how do you use energy, or do you use the word energy in your teaching and in what you do? And if so, how do you use it?
Well, that's a tiny little topic, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think we're all in good company. Anyone
happy
want?
to
Yeah.
start.
Hey, there's no rules, baby. Like, please. I know you're jumping out of your seat over there trying to pretend you're like demure.
I'm being really cool about this. Trying to be, but not very well. Yeah.
Your
God.
eyes are popping out. Pick me. Like, go pick yourself.
Yeah. So yes, I'm here. Well, energy for me it's what my life is about, in the sense that my work is purely an energetic modality. So for me, I use the word energy, and that is what we are, because science shows that an atom is 99.999999% space. There is technically nothing there, but the nothingness is actually vibrating energy. And this is shown, at quantum physics level. And I know quantum physicists hate it when, I'm going to use the word woo-woo people, things that cannot yet be explained, use quantum physics as the coverall for it. But they have to accept their own fact that we are energy. And there is no demarcation between me and the table other than a difference in vibration. And so for my work, I use energy as the means of connection with another system, be it a person or an animal. And within that word energy, there is information. So for me, I'm using the energy to help the system heal itself. And I'm not dictating to the system what it needs. I'm more a facilitator, so that my idea being I bring order to the energy so that the system itself at an energetic level can find the information. And for me, energy and information are interchangeable. They mean the same thing, because energy is information and information is energy. And they can find the information the system needs to heal itself. So I don't need to know what's wrong with the animal or the person or anything like that, because it's nothing to do with me. So for me, the energy is a means of connection, and it's a means of information that the system uses to heal itself. If that makes sense.
Wow.
How does that make sense to you, Barbara?
Well, I'm just more curious about what Kathy said. So do you feel the energy or the animal of the person or the
No, my modus operandi is not, and I believe every different modality is here for a reason. So it's not about one is better than the other. It's what is appropriate and how different people work. And I did used to sense energy change, but then I stepped into a place of I don't know, the system does. So I might feel an energy change and think, oh, that needs to be smoothed out or changed, and it may well be, but I stepped into I don't know. So why would I try and change something in case it's wrong, inverted commas? And the more I stepped back, the more I got clarity that every system wants to be in balance, because that's the place of ease. And that place of balance can move, as circumstances change. But I believe from like a single cell, like an amoeba, right up to a blue whale, if you like, every system is pure energy. And that if the energy is in balance, then everything flows and they are in health. So I don't tend to feel, my work is by intention. So I intend, and that's all I do, is I intend for the system to be able to pick up the information it needs. I call it conditioning the field, because we are all connected by an energetic field. It's a matrix, if you like, full of energy and information that comes from inside us to the furthest most reach of the universe that we don't even know about. And it's what connects everything. And that's how I work, what I work through. And so it's about making the field, if you like, I'm working more in that than with the system, making the field more accessible, the information more accessible, so that the system can pick what it needs. Because say someone has a headache, there's so many ways that headache could have formed. Emotional, psychological, they could have had an injury. I don't know, the system does. So that's sort of the way why I don't actually give feedback, because I can't, because I don't feel it, which some people are looking for, and totally understand I might not be the person for them. My modality might not be what they're looking for, but yeah.
Chris, my sense is that you have a sense of what Kathy is talking about as well, because I'm confident that you play in similar ways to a certain degree. Do you want to share your thoughts about Barbara's question?
Sure. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Kathy and Carrie. Yeah, I play in the same field, the same dimension, I guess you could say. And how I use it is I teach people how to feel. And I know energy, the word has all kinds of different connotations, and the word feel has all different kinds of connotations. But how I like to describe it and how I teach it is by first of all, pointing out to people what it is that they actually want. And we can learn that directly from horses, what it is that they actually want, because there's such great presenters of this. And that is what they want is something I call hum, right? And hum is the feeling that you get from an experience. So every being is after hum, that equilibrium, that balanced state, when it feels so good that you just go, that feels good, that you know it's right, right? And so from there, we can back up and go, okay, if you realize that what you really want in life, what your horse absolutely wants in life is hum, then how do we achieve that? And how I think we achieve it, and it's taken me a long time to figure this out, because I actually didn't know that I did it for the first 16 years of my life when I didn't speak, I didn't have speech, I didn't use words to communicate, and I couldn't reach out to other people. So I reached out to wild animals and horses and dogs, and right, that was my way of expressing myself and communicating. And that is to go into what I call the greeting, which is the space in between. It's the space in between the two beings, right? It could be you, it could be another horse, it could be you and another person. But in order to go into the space, the greeting, that space in between, in order to go into that space, we need to be totally open to receive. We need to be acknowledging. We need to be without suppression of any kind. We need to be our true selves. So we need to be presenting, this is me. This is who I am. I'm not hiding. I'm not covering things up. And humans are so good at this, but horses just naturally do it. It's just the way they are. They don't hide. They don't, of course, have egos, et cetera, et cetera. So the energy is in the space, and that's how I use it. I go into the space between the two of us, and I greet the other being, whoever it is. It's another being, and I use the greeting process to go into that space. And it's on the energetic level, and that's where it all starts. So it's the fundamental of fundamentals, before technique, before results with your horse, before connection. Almost, it's like the fundamental below connection. It's like the essence of communion. Those are kind of words that I'm playing with at how to describe that word energy and what it means.
Mark or Suki, you guys want to jump in and offer anything? I know, Suki, you're going to have plenty to say about this too, and I'm actually really curious how what Mark is going to bring to this awareness.
Suki, it's up to you.
I want to know what you have to say.
I would say that I agree with everything that has already been said. I think for me, what we focus on primarily are the connection and intent aspects of what we might refer to as energy. So it's always been a practical application is what I've looked for in when we're using the term energy, whether it's energy, a person's energy, in other words, the connection to themselves. It's pretty difficult to connect or to ask, I think, somebody else or another being to connect with us when we aren't connected to ourselves. And so I think from my own practice, in horsemanship, with horses, with people, in my martial arts practice. It's a lot of the focus has always been on the energetic part of it, and the ability to connect, find ways to connect to ourselves, and then not necessarily connecting to something or somebody else, but creating an opening or openings to allow that to happen. So I think a lot of, especially Kathy, a lot of what she said resonated with me, where it's not something that you can force. It's not something that you can push on yourself or on somebody else, I don't think. It's something that has to be allowed to happen, and it's an awareness, and I believe it starts with intent. And so I think one of the issues that we see a lot with folks is that the intent is skewed for whatever reason. So their intent with their horse, what it is that they want to accomplish with their horse, and oftentimes it piggybacks onto things that are going on in their lives as well, which is above my pay grade, as far as that, having that conversation with somebody, but the intent is often skewed. So it's I'll use horses for an example, but oftentimes the intent is more about trying to achieve some goal that for the horse in question may be unachievable for whatever reason. So whether it's physical issues, or the horse just doesn't understand, or any number of other things, or the skill level of the person isn't where it needs to be in order to achieve the thing that they are hoping to achieve. But so their intent is, they want this thing now without creating the foundation to actually get there. And so that's why I'm saying the intent kind of is missing, and then that skews the connection in themselves. Oftentimes folks don't, it's been my experience, I'll use this one as an example, but folks will sort of oftentimes think or feel that they have more knowledge or skill than they actually do. And so I can use the martial arts as sort of an example here too, in that the folks in the dojo who are so focused on getting to, say, a black belt, that they aren't taking in the information that they need at the level that they're at. And so they're sort of trying to work above where they are in their process. And oftentimes that doesn't go well. And it's the same, I think, with horses. And so, but for me, it boils down to that, having a clear intent is one thing, but is it an achievable thing in the situation that they're in? And if it isn't, then what needs to be done in order for that to sort of head in that direction? So the energetic part for me boils down to those two things: so intent and connection. That's one thing. Now I would like to let Suki talk, because I've got some more to say about it, but I don't want to you know, hog up the whole time. So
I would love to keep listening, but I'm happy to talk too. I'm a Taurus. I like things that are really tangible and practical. So the question of energy is actually one that I struggle with, to be totally honest, because I loved everything Kathy said. I'm aware of all of the quantum physics information. And in the early days of really getting into the type of work that I do now, which has been an evolution over the past 20 years, really longer, it's really been a lifelong thing. I really looked to energy because I would see what I perceived to be energetic shifts in people that I was working with. And I was wanting to learn how to use, wield, manipulate. I don't even know what the right word was, you know, to have some skill in energy, to be able to be more intentional about affecting the shifts that I was seeing in people. And I studied different modalities of energy healing, all of which were great and fascinating. But what I always kept coming back to is that, like Kathy said, we are energy. We are mostly space. There's the famous equation of E equals MC squared, right? Like energy and matter are not different things. And so the way that I interact with energy on a practical level is that I interact with what is tangible and I observe what shifts energetically. I make no intention to create an energetic shift. And so many times people will come to me and be in this place of like, I know I have like an energy misalignment or an energy problem, or that, you know, they're wanting to work at the level of like, I need to fix my energy in some way. And I just always want to bring people back to what's tangible, because as one of the teachers that I study says, it's the only thing we can get our hands on. And when we shift matter, energy shifts. And I don't actually go in with the intention to shift matter either. I go in with the intention to create an experience for the organism, and the organism will have the response that the organism wants to have with whatever sensory info is introduced, you know, through the context of an experience. Something that I harp on a lot is that I say the practices are neutral. So like what you're doing matters so much less to me than the experience that the organism is having within the practice. So you can go to yoga and be completely checked out and have no real tangible shift to, you know, your nervous system, your energy, your body. It happens all the time. But you can just go for a stroll and be totally tuned in and have tons of things shift. Simply walking into, you know, if we're talking about working with horses, simply walking into a paddock is a context, right? There's, when you walk in, that's a situation where something is happening. If you're aware of it, you're introducing sensory stimulus simply by being present in an environment with another organism. And all of those things affect energy. I don't feel the need to, I guess I'm an observer of energy at this point. I don't feel the need to wield it in any way anymore. I just observe that it is part and parcel of everything that is happening. And I have had some pretty interesting and profound experiences. I definitely will say that on a personal level, this is something that I've wrestled with because I am such a tangible person. I love things that are so practical and explainable. It's just my personality. It's who I am. Again, I'm Taurus. And so I'm very earthy and grounded in that way. But I've had some amazing experiences that just happen where like I get intuitive hits about things, you know, that I shouldn't know, that I should have no, like there's no plausible explanation for me to know things. And I just accept those things. It's like, isn't that fascinating? It's just a part of the experience, and I don't have an answer and explanation for it. It's just something that I make space for in my observation.
So for me, energy is a vocabulary word. It's this catch-all word that gets used in a lot of different ways in a lot of different places to describe things that we maybe can't articulate or explain. And I think for that reason, it can feel really confusing when someone uses the word energy. And I watch people put up a little veneer when a person starts talking about energy and intangible things, because they don't have a context in their own experiences. So like Suki, I love you talking about the experience of the organism, and because to me, energy is the word that we use to describe the sensation, to describe something that produces a sensation, right? Heat. Great. We can call heat energy. Oh, and it produces a sensation. My sensory body is capable of registering that something changed, something moved. And energy is the word that we can use to describe movement, the existence of movement, right? So like when Kathy is saying we are energy, there's no tangible difference between me and the table, save for a different frequency and a different way that the particles are organized. Well, that's a lot of fancy talk that, a whole lot of people on the planet, they're going to glaze over. Believe me, I've tried, right? But if we instead like let this word energy be a vocabulary word that is a way to say, hey, I noticed something changed. Energy moved. It is a word that describes movement or points to the existence of movement in one way or another. For me, that has simplified this concept of energy so that I can actually use different words, right, to describe heat or pressure or the absence of pressure or intent or the absence of intent, or just how it feels, right? Because horses are not, and animals and trees aren't really grasping for vocabulary words. They're just being right there saying, here's how it feels. And it is because of the movement of energy that lets me perceive what another being is sharing, whether it's physically because they touched me or I touch them, whether it's in presence when I walk into a room and I go, oh my God, something bad just happened in this room, right? It is because there's something in motion that my sensory instrument was able to perceive. And that something is, we can call energy. And then how you use it, like, I don't know, one of us said, how you use it, it can take on an infinite number of expressions and awarenesses. But like Mark is talking about, it so much comes down to what you intend, and then even before what you intend, who you are, who you're being. Are you aware of your own state of being? Because it is your state of presence that's going to put energy in motion so that others might feel and experience you. And so what I love to play with is very much the mind, and helping the mind have a way to relate to all these different ideas and concepts. But then at the end of the day, it's not so much about getting it right. It's about being able to see what's in front of you tangibly or energetically or sensory wise, but then always reorganize back to your heart so you do know who you are and where you're coming from before you ask for a thing. Is who I am, and what my mind is doing with who I am is going to have a huge effect on the energetic experience all around me, and even the experience of how I perceive myself. and that in that perception we can call that consciousness. But that, that conversation takes a lot more words to talk about something profoundly simple, which is ironic.
Interesting.
How do you play with energy, Barbara? What does it mean to you?
Well, first of all, I can absolutely relate to everything everyone has said. And it's fun for me to hear it, and just to listen and to absorb it. So I really love that. In a practical sense, in teaching what I think might be, I think it's very similar to what Chris is talking about with the is the intention to get into a very still, which doesn't mean non-movement state, whereby you're really very open and perceptive and very aware of yourself. And so therefore you can perceive the horse or what's around you and make decisions about that. So from that place, that energy to me within opens so much realm of possibility, because it's not imposing. Kathy was talking about expectations. It's not imposing expectations. It's a lot of perception and then action, and then you perceive, and it's like an interaction. So that's one way. The other way that I find in teaching writing, when I'm helping someone to not be in their, nervous system that's, erratic, and also like they're, from a physiological viewpoint, their brain waves are going too fast, their hand motions are going too fast, heart rate's fast, their muscles are tight, all of that, is to ask them to just bring their energy down, in the most vague sense. Just take some breaths and just kind of bring your energy down. And people seem to really be able to relate to that. And they can relate also from that place to the energy of the horse. And then when talking about things like using your feet or using your legs to accelerate or to make transitions between the pieces of a maneuver or a pattern or working a cow or whatever it is that, what is the energy of a fast circle? And instead of like kick, go, that sort of thing, it's like, think of the energy, what's the energy of this chunk, and have the intention of feeling, of experiencing the energy of that chunk. And then when you want to come down to a slow circle, or you want to lower physiologically your heart rate and muscle tension, to start to breathe when you quit the cow and bring your energy down, using how you use your mind and what you do with your body. And that the energy of that moment is that recovery. And then when you go into the herd, sorry for those of you who don't ride cutting horses, but when you go in the herd, the energy is observing. And then like kind of like getting on the freeway. And then when you walk through the herd and you choose a cow, it's authority. So I use it seems to be very helpful for people to relate to the energy of the movement that they're doing with their horse. So I'm just sharing that because it's so much better than technical. So anyway.
This makes me want to ask Mark to unmute and go into his second point, because what I just heard you talking about, Barbara, is also something that I feel like I watch Mark point to when he's teaching as well.
I'm back.
Hi.
Yeah, one of the things I was going to say is that I don't often use the word energy when I'm working with somebody, and it's been my experience that one of the reasons, what happens, I think, with some folks is that they get caught up in the word, which is something that we've kind of discussed here, that folks sometimes get hung up in the word, and then, you know, let's to Barbara's point, really, you know, if we're thinking about doing just a transition to the trot, for instance, that when I would in the past say something like, let's bring up your energy, boy, it's such a, like everybody said, it's such a broad spectrum of the connotation of it that people get lost in it. And now they're thinking about, what does that mean? Does that mean I have to move my body more? Does that mean I have to kick harder? Does that mean I have to jiggle my rein? What does that mean? And so they get so hung up in the word itself that they've got nothing left. You know, oftentimes people, when they're using their legs so much, all of their energy is going to their leg, and there is no energy for the forward that they're looking for. So they're actually defeating their purpose by focusing so much on trying to get that horse to go using their leg that they've got nothing left. And of course, the horse is going to pick up on that, and it's going to be pretty hard to get that transition, probably. So so I don't use that word very often, unless it's in very specific situations. And I mean, even in the dojo, I don't really talk about energy much. I will again, kind of to what Barbara was saying, I will have a tendency to rather than saying bring your energy up or bring your energy down or something like that, I might just go even usually something simpler. Can we slow that down a little bit? That, you know, could we, you know, if you understand the difference between a hydraulic machine and a piston driven machine, you know, could we be more hydraulic here, more smooth in our movements rather than so abrupt with our movements? And so putting a feel behind it, something that somebody can understand, you know, rather than, again, saying the word energy, which has so many different variations, and if we can, you know, find something a little more universal, it's been my experience anyway, you know, just can we slow that down a little bit, you know? So for me, I put things on a scale from 0 to 10, with 0 being nothing and 10 being way more than we would ever want to use. And if we want to be operating at a 1 or less, then usually what I'll try to do is help the rider get on the same page. The rider and I'll get on the same page through an actual feeling, through the reins, for instance, where the rider has one end of the rein and I have the other. And then we come to an understanding of what a one is, or what a two is. And now we have a common language, so we can move forward from there, whether it's using your leg or whether it's using your hands or whatever it is that you're trying to do. The other thing that I have found really helpful is explaining, for instance, if we want to do a transition, say from walk to trot, and asking the rider to sort of picture how they would do it if they were on the ground by themselves without the horse. How would you go from a walk to a jog? What would that feel like to you? How would that feel to you? And then if you wanted to go from a jog to a walk, how would that feel to you? Would it be abrupt? Would it be smooth? Would it take you a long time to get there? How would that work? And with that, then they can put that feel in their body. They change the energy, right? They can put that feel in their body, and the horse picks up on it pretty dang quickly. And so again, I just try to find things that are tangible to the person in the situation that I think might be beneficial or might work in any given situation, depending on the thing. And then also, I feel like it takes the person into consideration. Where are they right now? How is this person? How are they feeling? What do I feel like they can accomplish, or what can they do given the situation? If it's a clinic situation, there's people watching, the person's nervous. Okay, so what can we do given all of those things? Again, it's all about energy, right? It's not just the energy of the rider, it's the energy of the situation. How can we take the whole situation into consideration and then figure out the easiest, hopefully, thing that will get us on the right track to find a starting point, and then build on it. So that's yeah, that's what I would say about that.
There's something common to what I hear anyway, all of us talking about, and that is when we're talking about anything energy, what we're pointing to are things that are experienced or felt, right? Which is different than analyzing and thinking and forcing and manipulating with the mind. Now, when the mind is doing those things, it's also moving energy that we can experience in our body, which is, I think a lot of people would relate to the experience of anxiety or stress. Like the body does a thing and the mind goes, oh, that's stress, right? And it is the thought patterns themselves that can move energy in such a way that the experience results in what we call stress. But the point I'm trying to make here is just to perhaps draw a simplification in how to relate to this idea of energy, and that energy is experienced or felt, and we can point to it with feel words. Does it feel fast or slow? Does it feel easy or hard? Does bring your energy down? It points at a movement of something, right? And I think it's helped when I'm talking with people is to just simplify it to say, when you're trying to relate to something energetic, look at your experience in your body rather than labeling it and naming it and getting it correct. Look at what's actually happening, and then words can happen after that, because we are all going to use the word energy and the applications of it in unique ways. And, I'm sure we'll come up with things that we haven't experienced before, hopefully, anyway. But to me, simplicity is key. Simplicity in the understanding of it helps all of my nervous system, helps all of my cells just go, oh, huh. And then I can start from that quieter place. Oh, Barbara, you need to unmute yourself. That's okay. And then Chris, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Chris, did I just barge in?
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Yes, but it's okay, Barb. I just want to comment about what Mark said, and I completely agree. And there's so much, from a mentor viewpoint, there's so much, maybe this is what Chris was talking about as well. Wonderful information, and Carrie and everyone, in observing the student and seeing really what works. And words can be very helpful, like soft, slow, turn it up just a notch, not too much, just a little bit. And I just really love the whole idea of feeling words. So I just wanted to say that I concurred with what Mark was saying. So, okay, Chris, you go.
Yeah, I wanted to just point to what Suki's saying, what Carrie, everybody actually, what Mark's saying too. The distinction between the practical and the feeling end of it, and how we do have a thought process that's used for evaluation. That's separate from a process that takes a thought to a feeling. A lot of people get stuck in those processes, not distinguishing between the two. And that's where there's not clarity and there's not simplicity. But when we can distinguish between the two, and we can learn how to feel, because a lot of people don't know how to feel either. They don't know how to take an emotion and put that into a feeling because of, well, right, traumas or stories or whatever in the past. And so then we're not coming to the horse or another person in that open receiving place. And so then it's like wavelengths or energy that peaks up right up the sides. And if one side is down here, the two can't come and resonate and hold that wavelength, right? So then it falls apart. And the places where it can fall apart, and what Carrie was, I think, not alluding to, but describing so accurately, was the simplicity in the understanding of the distinctions between a thought to an action, a thought to an emotion, to a feeling, a thought to maybe a meditation, a thought to a greeting with another being, right? These are all complete distinctions that will help to bring simplicity in the end.
Chris, can you describe like an example of a scenario, like a thought to a greeting? Can you draw a picture of it and talk through with some feel words of that distinction of thought to greeting or thought to feeling?
Yeah, it's in my book. I just actually wrote it. So this was an experience that I had. Again, the experience. I was away for 3-4 weeks away from my mare, who's one of my best friends, and I was really excited to see her again after this long time. And so, as I was going from my house to meet her in the herd, I have these things going through my head, like, what if She runs away from me. Oh, what if she doesn't even want to connect with me, and she hasn't seen me for so long? And so that's when I'm in the thought, the evaluative state. That's when I'm in my mind. I'm in the intellect. And so I'm not yet in what I call the greeting. So then I walk down the path, and just the rhythm of the walking down the path gets me back into that, I hate to say altered state, but that other state where I'm not being evaluative. I'm in the state of actually feeling. I'm in the state of greeting my horse by imagining the space between. Okay, so I have my self-doubts, I have my apprehensions, right? Because I'm a human, I'm a person that carries those things, but I can come out of those, and I can go into the greeting, and I can go, okay, imagine what it's going to be like. So I can co-create this greeting. I can co-create the next step of my life as I go into this space with my horse. So I walk down the path, and it's icy, and I have rhythm of the walk, which gets me into the greeting. And then I come to the gate, and I actually make eye contact with my horse, and I see, oh, okay, she does want to be with me. And that's what Carrie was referring to, is the movement, right? The movement. I could sense, whether it's my sight or my intuition, that yes, she does want to connect with me. Whew. Okay, good. I open the gate, and there's the squeak that happens of the gate, and you squeak it closed. But because I want to have learning experience for this and an educational experience, my husband's with me with the video camera, which is not where I want to be, right? I just want to be with me and my horse, but he's there, and so he comes through, and I walk towards my horse, and I'm in the greeting, right? I'm in this state where I'm like, oh my God, I just want to run up to her, and I want to hug her, and I want to like, but I switch to what I call the shift, the thought to the evaluation. And I go, oh, wait a minute. My horse wouldn't appreciate that. That would not be horse language, right? So I can bring down my energy and I can feel into what she's feeling. So I actually become part of her, and she becomes part of me, right? I don't lose myself. She doesn't lose herself, but we interweave in this space, and we become one. And I go, oh no, you can't do that. She's a horse. So like, all right. So then I noticed she looks at the camera, and my husband, she goes, wait a minute. She took a few steps towards me to come to me, and I was like, yay. But she stops because she sees the camera. And so I'm like, all right, give her space, back into the greeting, right? So I'm holding the space for her. I allow her to take the time she wants to take to, again, seek hum and to find hum within being the life of a horse. She needs to look at him. The energy, and if I'm supposed to put words to it, I would be saying to her, it's okay, you know that's Scott. He's just here with a videogrammer. He's just going to take some video of you and I doing this. She goes, okay, I perceive the energy, the change of the movement within the space, right? And then the space gets closer and closer, right? It gets shorter and shorter, smaller and smaller, figuratively and energetically, until we are both in contact, right? Contact with our bodies, our eyes, our heads, our necks. Like she's got her neck wound around, she's smelling me, she's sniffing me, she's like going down to my feet, up my whole entire body. And time and space just disappears. So I forget about the husband in the camera. She forgets about the husband in the camera. The herd is over there doing their own thing. And it's the time of communion where we're in the greeting, in the deep, like going deeper and deeper in the level of the greeting as we do that. And yeah, that's hum, right? That's when you resonate together and the wavelengths come, and you keep that resonating energy that just buzzes and hums along, and nothing else matters in the world, which is what, right, we seek from our horses a lot of the time. And then I decide to walk away. She turns and follows me. So that if I shift into my evaluative state, I can go, okay, she wanted to be with me. I was vulnerable enough. I was open enough in my presence, and I was here. I was here in the moment enough, flipping in and out of the shift and the thought to evaluative, thought to emotion, thought to feeling. I was able to do those different processes so that she could meet me and be with me. That's how I describe it.
That was gorgeous. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's ironic to me how it takes us so many words to describe the place of no words.
And it's difficult.
It does. To me anyway, my experience is wanting to bring words to experiences like that. I have to come to the memory of the feeling, like Mark is talking about. What does it feel like to move from a walk to a jog, or jog to walk? It's a feeling. But I think more people are realizing, like, just as we can remember what a red rose looks like, right, we can also remember the feeling of something. And horses give us this amazing opportunity to touch into that ability and to use it like language and relationship. Kathy, I'm super curious how some of this is moving through your world, because I have my way of describing what I understand of your work. But Barbara's talking about teaching people who are doing performance related things, right? So if I go and I say, well, I have no intention and I don't care about what the horse's story is, and I don't really listen to what the human wants, I just listen to energy. How does that bridge? Because I know you're doing more than that. I know it's hard to bring words to all of it, but how do we bridge that place between mentoring people who have performance things to do with the place where things are happening, whether you intend them to or not?
Good grief, Carrie. Yeah, I'll just get my brain around the question first. Yeah, it's been interesting listening, because the one word that came practically from everyone is intention. It's the intention of what you wish to happen. Whether the intention of slowing down, what's the feeling, but behind you feeling that feeling, there is the intention. What do you want to happen? What movement are you looking for? And I find this totally fascinating listening to everybody here, because my work is so remote in that I don't know what's happening with the subject that I'm working with the system I'm working with. I very rarely see them. Most of my work is 99% distance now, because of situation and because a lot of my clients are abroad and everything like that. And even if I'm working in person with somebody or a horse, it's literally is my intention is to open the conversation for the system with, I'm going to use the word, the energy and information of the field, because that is what my work is, work inverted commas. And then I literally step back and almost, I believe change, from my perspective, from what I'm doing, change happens faster than the speed of light. And it just sometimes takes the physicality time to catch up. But on an energetic level, it's done. And it's whether the system is and we've had the word resonance here, the system is resonating at a level that can move into that change. But I haven't created anything, and I'm not looking to create or tell the system what to do in any way, shape, or form, or even have a picture of how I can help them, because I don't know. And so it's been really fascinating listening the different, you know, Suki, you were talking about the experience of the physical. I just love these words, and you've opened a new palette for me, is all I'm going to say, on the physical level, listening to all of the way that you're working when you have people or horses in front of you, and you're trying to communicate to them without using the word energy, but using the feel and imagining, you know, Kerry, you just said it, you know, how does a walk to a trot feel, or a walk to a jog? How do you feel it in your body? But it's really difficult for me, because the intention is literally the opening of the door. That's the movement for me, is the opening of the door for the system to find the information. And then it's, I know nothing. So I can't give them, I'm going to say an instruction, but it's not, but a guidance to feel this or feel that, because I don't know what they need. Their system does on the way I'm working, in the sense that it's not a, you know, you've got the visible person in front of you. And Suki, I love the way as well you said, what did you say? Something about you see an energetic shift. There's just the terms you're all using. It's like, oh gosh, that's really interesting. But because I'm not with the person, so I don't see anything. And it gets a bit, I did a video one day and I said, you know, I don't know what the person needs, and I don't know how this is working. And I think I had 3 I don't knows in a row, and I was going, I don't know a lot, do I? You know, I'm trying to explain my work, and I don't actually know, but I don't. But yeah, so it's really difficult for me to sort of extrapolate my work into a physical situation, if you like, because I'm not in it, and I don't know. It's that word again. I don't know if that made any sense either.
Suki, do you want to chime in with anything? We've got 5 or 7 minutes left here, so this is a good time to offer any closing thoughts or closing questions, or more, I don't know, whatever you'd like to bring in.
I did have a thought actually while Kathy was talking. One experience that I've had is that when working with energy, and this is just my observation, I have found that if we're operating on an energetic frequency, I have found that easier with horses or animals than I have with humans, because and I think Chris kind of spoke to this too. The horses are just like in the moment, and they're tuned into everything that's happening right now. They're really attentive to their experience. But people, we tell ourselves all kinds of stories about what we're experiencing, or what we should experience, or what our Pilates teachers told us we should experience, or what the collective culture says we should experience, or, you know, and we don't even know most of these stories. And so I think one of the reasons I've gravitated so much towards physicality and sensation and a sensory experience is that it really helps humans to, whether it's the human attending to themselves or a human attending to a shift in their horse, to see that shift, to experience the shift. Because I found that when people don't actually notice a shift, it doesn't matter that anything shifted, right? Like if it doesn't affect their experience, then does it really matter to them? And maybe it does on a grander scale, but on a personal, individual level, I think it's that attending to the experience that really helps people integrate it and carry it forward with them into whatever happens next. So yeah, I've just found some utility in that.
I love what you're saying. Different words that I might use is that I hear you talking about is an integration. Like there's still a lot of pressure and a lot of work to quiet the mind, and the mind is bad and the ego is bad and all that stuff, and yet the more you try to quiet them, the louder they become. So like, what if we stop doing that and instead invite the mind to become aware of where the real information is happening, the experience, the where the energy is moving, and where I can relate to a shift that's happening, right? And I think the more we do offer different language and different ways of pointing at it and ask all the questions, and Barbara, the way that you coach and mentor people is very much in the body, like, and you're very much pointing them at the body because the horses feel your body and feel the energetic shifts, right? So in a way, I think we're all talking about the same thing in different languages and in different facets. I guess in general, my encouragement is, don't like listen to what everybody says, but find it in yourself regardless of what level you think you're at. Like, go ahead and do all the evaluation, but remember that the whole point of evaluation is how you experience your world, right? Because it's all going to happen. Wow, this has been an amazing conversation. Let's please open up your mics, you guys, and any closing thoughts, any closing questions. How do we want to wrap our conversation for today? Because I mean, I could keep going for like 6 or 7 more days. I don't know about you guys, but
I think I've been totally fascinated, as I said, and I think what everybody has said is we were all using slightly different words, and I totally understand how the word energy can be confusing, in that there are so many logical explanations for it, and people have their own story about energy. But at the end of the day, that is what we're talking about, because that's all there is. And it's just been really fascinating how you've all used different words. And well, we've all used different words, but we're all talking about the same thing. And the feeling is the energetic feeling that we have in us. And for me, I've suddenly realized that a lot of my work, when people are coming back, I don't ask what's wrong with people, and I don't ask for any results. But when people feedback, it is the nervous system. It's the nervous system that is changing. And I think that's fundamental. I'm really going to dig into it. But yeah, I'm just really fascinated by it all. And like you, Kerry, could go on a lot longer.
Well, I loved hearing everyone. I really did. So thank you all.
That was a huge question around the energy. But I think all these 6 perspectives have been very illuminating to each of us, and I think to the listeners as well, just to show the paradigm that is possible.
Mm-hmm.
oh, Mark, you muted yourself.
That was on purpose.
Excellent.
I sound best muted. That's been my experience over the years. One thing that that I might add, just in closing, is because we're talking about the various words and the feel of kind of getting to the feel of energy rather than using the word energy. And the one thing I think that I often focus on, or try to, without actually talking about it, is trying to develop the integrity of the request, or the integrity of the action, whatever that action happens to be. And that in and of itself can change the intent a lot. And again, just the idea of there's other words, there's other ways, there's there's ways of feeling that kind of go beyond the limited. It's really interesting because it's the word energy is limited, but it's massive in its scope. People can really get locked down into it if we're not careful. And I'm speaking for myself there too. Having had the word used, for instance, in the dojo when I was first starting out, and just not even knowing what that meant, and I had no idea what it was supposed to feel like, or no real clue, and so you just muddle along and try to, maybe that's energy, and maybe that's energy, or I did it that way and that seemed to feel like energy. I don't know, what do I know? Right. But finding something that we can latch onto and take forward, I think is really important. And again, I think everybody brought a lot to the table here today, and I really appreciate listening to everybody and getting all the various viewpoints. It's pretty awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you all. Definitely. I second the pretty awesome. All right, you guys. Thank you for another beautiful conversation.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Thank you
To everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.